Hi, I'm Delana Howell, and this is a little bit of my story on how God called me to serve others. So, the first question is, what led you to Urshan? Well, my pastor's wife at the time, she was one of the biggest factors, I guess, in encouraging me to go to Urshan. She was also my high school teacher, so of course, she would encourage me as well as the other students to look into different colleges, especially Urshan, um, and I guess go to preview and kind of get a feel for the atmosphere there. Um, I never wanted to go to Bible college though. I guess I never felt that it was my place and my calling. Bible college always seemed like it was only for those who were called to full-time ministry, if they wanted to be an evangelist or a music minister. So I have my heart set on going to like a prestigious, fancy college, getting this elaborate degree and making a lot of money, of course, having, all my I's dotted and all my T's crossed by the time I was such and such age. Because I felt like, if I went into a life of ministry, that, oh, there's no money there, there's no way that you're going to be able to provide for yourself. And so that silly fear kind of is what drove me away from Bible college. But I did have a heart for ministry. I wanted to serve in the church. So God was dealing with me, and probably from the time I was 16, he started dealing with me about the direction he wanted me to go. And because I did want to be used in ministry as well, I spent many altar calls at youth services and at church, just praying and crying and trying to seek out God's voice, some kind of direction about what he wanted me to do, because I genuinely wanted to follow the will of God no matter what I personally wanted in my life. I knew that it was important to follow him. But I also had this fear. There was like an immense amount of fear of not doing the will of God. I was so scared that I was going to go in the wrong direction and mess up my life that I doubted God's voice when he did speak to me. I was scared that, what if this is not God speaking? What if I'm going in the wrong direction and I mess everything up? And I guess I had to eventually realize that no matter what it was, if I felt a strong conviction, I needed to follow that, and that God was going to provide no matter what it was that I needed to do. And so as time went on and I began to grow spiritually, and I was continuing to learn more about the Word of God and I guess come out of my shell, I started witnessing to people, and as I was doing that and sharing my faith sharing my apostolic faith, there were a lot of things that I realized that I didn't know about the Word of God, and a lot of hard questions that I couldn't answer. And so I felt that I needed to grow spiritually in those areas. I wanted to know more and as much as I could about the apostolic faith as I possibly could. And so I guess that's when I started looking into Bible college. I didn't know if it was going to be, one of those colleges where I could, I guess, pursue a career as well. I just knew that, at least for a time, I needed to go to Bible college to get what I needed spiritually. So I looked into Urshan because I knew that they were accredited. And I saw that they had a human services program, which was fantastic. That just was icing on the cake. I was really excited about that. And so I went to Preview in 2022. And at Preview, that is where God really led me spiritually. And he told me, I felt like he was leading me to go to Urshan. And also at the time, he also confirmed a calling to missions on my life that I had been dealing with and fighting with for a few years. He confirmed it, that I needed to go into missions. And so that's how I came to Urshan. What led you to help others? I didn't really know much about counseling until I was probably in junior high, and even then I didn't know a whole lot. But I knew that whatever career path that I chose, I wanted to be able to help others. I didn't want to go into some random job that was like completely, I guess, self-beneficial. I knew that any career that was worth having, it was going to be about more than just me. Because as a Christian, I felt that if I wasn't going to go into ministry full-time, that I wanted to be that light and that testimony of God in whatever I did. I wanted to help other people and lead them to, I guess, a better version of themselves. So I've always been naturally a quiet person, and I found myself the observant one of the group, of my friend groups. And that being the case, I would usually be the one to listen and to give advice, and I would people watch, I guess. I was always the outsider. So, looking from the outside in, I would tend to analyze people and their situations. And I also loved anything that had to do with the brain. I loved learning about psychology and health and stuff like that. And so I guess that kind of all led up to psychology, and that's what I wanted to do. So when I was in ninth grade, that's probably when I decided that I wanted to go into a psychology career. And one of the biggest impacts in my life was one of my high school teachers. She taught my Spanish class. She is the one who really, I guess, made me see more that I wanted to be a counselor. She motivated me to look deeper into people instead of just looking at their situations. I guess as Christians, a lot of times it's easy to not necessarily, I guess, judge people, but see the sin and not see the person. We tend to forget that there's a reason why they're going through the things that they're going through, and before we judge them, before we tell them what they should do and try to fix them, we have to be the listening ears. We have to be understanding and see where they're coming from. We have to be open-minded in that sense. And the only way that we're going to help them is by being compassionate and, I guess, really trying to understand what they're going through and guide them when it's appropriate, and not just try to throw our opinions out there. What do you feel like God is asking you to do? I feel that obviously God has really big plans for my life and in my future, but for now, I know that He has called me to different things. Every day He has callings for each and every one of us. I want to be a missionary, but I know that for now, there's other things that I have to fulfill in preparation for that, and there's other things that are important to do in this time, and in counseling and serving other people, that's going to play a big role, and ultimately in my calling as a missionary and in other things. And of course, I do want to work with children, because I feel like, especially now and in this day and age, our children and the family are being attacked. So many people are trying to indoctrinate kids and put their corrupt ideas and notions into their heads, because they're vulnerable and they're sensitive, and they can't always fully understand because their minds are not fully developed in their logic yet. And so they're trying to push these agendas on kids, and I really feel like I have a passion and a burden to help children. So my strengths, I feel like I have a very good discernment of right and wrong, I guess. I've always been kind of the goody two-shoes kid, but I have a very strong willpower to follow after what's right and to guard myself, guard my mind, guard my heart against agendas that can be dressed as innocence. And I have a pretty good sense of compassion for other people, and I try to listen and understand their situations and not judge, be open-minded. And I think through that compassion and through creativity that I can use that effectively in therapy. And I feel like I need to grow, though, in those areas as well. I have a strong sense of awareness and compassion for other people, but I don't always know how to, um, I guess, verbally or physically express my compassion. Um, so I want to overcome that. I feel like God's helping me to overcome my shyness and um, my fears, I guess, of leading people in the wrong direction. Because I know that He's going to guide me in whatever it is that He has called me. So I feel like He's also helping me to become more self-aware and to work on myself and see that it's okay to set boundaries for myself. I'm not being selfish, that I need to make sure that I'm stable, that I'm healthy, so that I can help other people too. Of the jobs that were listed below, I mean, obviously I want to go into mental health services, but I think the social service jobs, those also looked really interesting too. It'd be a good way to interact with children. I think it would be cool to help children in the foster care system and in the adoption services, helping them find a safe place, not only to stay, but to get a new start and to have a healthy environment to grow up in. To be a counselor, I'm gonna definitely have to go through a master's program and get certain certifications. But to be a social worker, I think just to get a simple entry level job, it would take a bachelor's degree. And in 10 years, I would definitely like to have my master's degree, and I would like to be working as a therapist by that time. I would like to get some experience working maybe in a children's hospital. That's always been kind of a passion of mine, or in a clinical setting. And I also would really, really like to start writing books. So maybe even children's books. And in 10 years, I hope to have at least started a book. So, and of course, it would be ideal for me to have done some missionary work by that time, whether it's, just going on a missions trip or working through AIM, or even full-time if God wills it. So that's just a little bit about my story, about how I feel a calling to people. And I know that as I continue in this course and in my college, journey, that I'm going to grow more and learn more, and hopefully my passion and my understanding for this area is going to grow, and that I'll be able to be used by the Lord in these areas.